Hi, good afternoon, and happy Friday from Vogelzang Law. Hope you're doing well. The sun is shining, and we're all looking forward to a great weekend. So I'm doing my check-in and just kind of wrapping up the news from the past week. We got to do the auto show about a week from today, actually a week from today, last Friday. My lovely wife, Kaylee Vogelzang, and I attended the auto show, and they do like a charity village. And we went Friday night, and you get a preview. You have to wear a tuxedo, but we wore a tuxedo. She had a great dress on, and we went to see we had like a preview of all the cars, so I bet you there was 3,000 people there. And you get to walk around so that you're not dealing with the masses. Not that there's anything wrong with the masses, it's just nice to go to the auto show when it's not quite so crowded. And part of the whole thing was that we gave back to breast cancer through the Komen women's breast cancer. So it was a really cool event, super fun. And then this past week, our outreach person, Morella, she's fantastic. She went up to Michigan and she presented that check for Union for Life with the International Brotherhood of Electrician Workers to University of Michigan for cancer research. So that was great. And while she was up there in Michigan, she visited the law firm that we've been working with and sort of partnered up with for a lot of our cases up there, and that's the Willis Law Firm. That's Mike and Sean Willis. Mike does trust and estates, and Sean does personal injury work up on the western Michigan side, along with some other legal work. So we'll be utilizing their resources up there, and it's a great trade. They can use some of our resources down here. So that was nice. And then the big news this week, we had two cases up for trial. DeBolt's, Mr. Wilbur DeBolt, he was a boiler engineer and got mesothelioma. And we did his deposition about September of 2017, I want to say, down in Indianapolis. But he was exposed at Kroger Foods milk processing plant, which had a ton of pipes and valves and pumps that had asbestos insulation, asbestos gaskets. So we settled that case along with Ulrich Humerick, who worked in several different steel mills and also exposed to a lot of valve and pump and pipe, asbestos insulation and gaskets. And I'll tell you, it was a lot of work, but it was for two great gentlemen who both passed away. We did all kinds of work on their cases. We flew to Chattanooga, we flew to New York, we flew to Las Vegas, we drove down to Indianapolis. I was just summarizing some of the staff had asked how those cases had gone, and looking back over the course of a year to see all the work that's done, it's cool to see when you can wrap up a case or two and close one chapter and open a new book. So this was, we settled for over $2 million for those two cases, which we're really proud of. And I don't like to brag and say, look, hurt and a wreck, need a check kind of thing, but it is when our firm has a good accomplishment like that. I do like to give a shout out and say thank you to all the people that worked so hard to get to the finish line on those two cases. And I know that the families are very grateful. We've spoken to them. And so it was a nice week, and we're going to go celebrate a little bit tonight, and everyone's looking forward to that. So today's topic is about when somebody isn't around, but they recently passed from mesothelioma, or if you yourself have mesothelioma, but you're saying, and I don't want to be too blunt about it, but you're thinking, well, if I'm in my final days or if I'm not going to be around in a couple months, why would I do this? Because you couldn't see it through. But the unfortunate reality is that this is the case for almost every one of our cases, is that your health isn't guaranteed throughout the pendency of the lawsuit. So what we do there's two scenarios. One is that a loved one, a widow, may come to us and say, my husband passed away, and I'd still like to do something if I could. And typically, yes, you can for a year or two, depending on the state that you live in, the state of exposure. There's a lot of variables, but you definitely want to be within a year and 2 years at the most from the date of death. We can find a coworker a lot of times that worked with your spouse at the steel mill or as an electrician or whatever they did. It takes some digging, and it can be more challenging. It's a lot easier of a case if you do it while somebody is still alive. But I would say 10 or 20% of our cases start with somebody who we've never met before, and we have to go retrace their steps. And then the other question is, if you're sick and you say, I won't be around, how are you going to handle that? And the fact of the matter is we're used to it and we do work around it. A lot of times, if somebody has chemotherapy, they get it every 3 weeks. We try to meet with them the week after chemotherapy while they still have 2 weeks before their next chemo, and that's usually a window where they're feeling really good. And both plaintiff counsel and defense counsel all know that you are going through a lot with your chemo, so everybody is flexible on the scheduling, and basically it works around the client, the person who is sick. And then if, let's say you're in decline and you're saying, well, my trial isn't for 9 months and there's no way I'm going to feel good enough to come to court, you won't have to go to court. We videotape you, and if we need to, we do it in the house. So your testimony is preserved and it's able to be viewed by a jury should it come to that. But you should not worry about being stressed of coming to court. I mean, of course, that could potentially be an option and you would be able to, but it's not something that should be seriously considered as a client for whether or not you go forward with a lawsuit. There are a lot of other things to think about and worry about, but coming to court, being present is not high on the list, so to speak. So I hope that clears up that a little bit and that I explained it thoroughly. It's kind of difficult because I'm just speaking and there's no question and answer session. We are working towards doing a webinar in the next several months where people are going to be able to write in and ask questions, and I can answer them more on a live basis so that when I say something that triggers a question, people can shoot it right in and I'll be able to give an answer. So, but that takes a while. We have to build up to that and figure out how the logistics work and make sure that we've gotten the word out so everybody is ready for the ultimate extreme webinar that will come to a iPhone near you. So I, again, hope you're looking forward to a great Friday night. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.